After a long wait, the Ds have finally released a new drama to fulfill everyone's expectations. It is a drama series from the same series as Kondiaw blseries. It features Joy and Kondiaw's Vice Kondiaw as the main characters of the story. It's a drama about the reasons why the two were miserable with each other as young children, and the sweet love story of their marriage process. This drama still continues the sweet style that the Ds specialize in, and it's a treat to watch. Let's enjoy it together. Kondiaw looks at Joy, who is holding a press conference. With a helpless look on his face, his love for Joy never changed, but lately Joy often doesn't come home to sleep and is suspected to have another boyfriend. This is disheartening for Kondiaw. He decided to go home and pack his bags. He also uses his pampered puppy as bait in order to be able to sneak away from Joy's assigned bodyguards. Kondiaw runs this way, and Joy soon senses an anomaly from the secretary at his side. When he finished his work and rushed home, he found Kondiaw's room empty. There was no clothing left in the house. He then immediately ordered his men to launch an all-out search operation. However, by this time, Kondiaw had already arrived at the airport. He's getting ready to board a plane to leave Thailand. On why Kondiaw wants to go abroad. It stems from the bouquet he received at his best friend Kuya's wedding. Later that night, he asks if they should also consider getting married. During the conversation, he learned that Kondiaw had planned 3 sightseeing trips to Switzerland with Kuya, and their purpose was simply to view the cattle. To fulfill Kondiaw's wish, he decided to make Switzerland their honeymoon destination. Next, he very much planned the engagement ceremony first. During the ceremony, he invited business partners and close friends to witness the event. Kondiaw was also deeply loved and recognized by Joy's father. Joy's father can't wait to hope every time he sees the two. Joy welcomed Kondiaw home as soon as possible. Watch Kuya and Joy remain as sweet as ever after their new marriage, and he himself never made any further intimate moves with Joy. Kondiaw begins to wonder if he has lost interest in himself, so he borrows a secret base from his best friend Kuya. He used it as a place where he could hide when he needed to. Shortly afterward, Kuya got some photos from an informant, shows Joy in what appears to be a close relationship with a person of the opposite sex. He passed the photo to Kondiaw. Kondiaw felt very sad after seeing the photos. He even rushes to the scene and grabs Joy straight away. And, without giving him any chance to explain, he began to interpret it on his own. Kondiaw is subsequently devastated by his lost love. He decided to fly to Switzerland alone to heal. This causes Joy to go to great lengths to find him, even calling Kuya directly to question him about Kondiaw's whereabouts. Kuya was very loyal in keeping Kondiaw's whereabouts from leaking out. Joy then turned to his secretary and found a record of Kondiaw's order for airfare. This makes Joy immediately decide to quickly head to the airport and intercept Kondiaw. However, due to the speed of the car, it ended up in a serious car accident. Joy had to be taken to the hospital for treatment. Kondiaw soon learns about Joy's car accident from her best friend Kuya. Without hesitation, he abandoned his plans to board the plane and rushed straight to the hospital. When Kondiaw arrived, Joy's father didn't scold him too much, but comforted him first. He tells Kondiaw that it is Joy's own result and asks Kondiaw not to blame herself. Joy's father then also solemnly addressed Kondiaw, his future daughter-in-law. They should communicate openly about anything they encounter in the future, rather than choosing to avoid it. A lucky man's fate was to be found, and he survived the disaster, suffering only some flesh wounds. After a few days in the hospital, his condition improved dramatically. However, when he opens his eyes and meets Kondiaw, who is by his side day and night, he suffers from amnesia. He can't remember Kondiaw's existence and even tries to drive him away. This came as a shock to the forgotten Kondiaw. After waiting for his friend Kuya to arrive, Kondiaw steps aside to talk with him. As his memory tells him, he met Joy only after he returned from his studies, so he began to suspect that there might be some secret hidden behind this matter of Joy wanting to marry himself. So he decided to take this opportunity to see if he could find out what was going on. During the night, Joy is immersed in dreamland. He dreamt of the nightmare that had been plaguing him to this day. When he woke up, his memory returned quickly, for he cries out for the figure of his dreams. Upon waking up, he immediately finds his secretary, Ong, and inquires about Kondiaw's whereabouts. He was relieved to learn that Kondiaw had not taken a flight to Switzerland. Upon learning that she actually kicked Leon down after she lost her memory, he feels no guilt. Thereupon, he asked his secretary to contact Leon for him and prepare to meet to discuss and conspire in detail. When Leon arrives, he sends Ong out to check for any lurking enemies near the hospital. After Ong leaves the hospital room, he candidly tells Leon that he has regained his memory, and he asked for his help in keeping it a secret from the public. This is because he suspects that what happened to him was no accident, and it could be related to the Kondiaw family. Kondiaw doesn't realize that he has regained his memory. At this moment, he was filled with all sorts of complicated emotions. While talking to his puppy, he couldn't help but sigh. He fantasized if he ever did leave this place and live out there on his own. Does he feel lonely and isolated and looking for himself? He confesses a secret to Leon that he was afraid to tell Kondiaw. In his youth, on a whim, he asked the butler to release his cherished pet tiger. However, he never expected that the tiger would escape accidentally, and because of its wildness, the tiger is preparing to attack Kondiaw, who is playing at Yi's house at the moment. This unforeseen event culminated in the butler being injured trying to save Kondiaw. Ultimately, this resulted in the steward losing both eyes. Kondiaw also suffers a shock that causes him to lose all memories of his youth, and Yi's beloved pet tiger was forced to be sent to an animal shelter. After this incident, the Yi family's property was continuously appropriated by Kondiaw's greedy father, uncle and stepmother. The two were also forced to sign an unequal treaty when they became engaged. It provides that if he fails to fulfill the marriage promise within the agreed period of time, then he would have to surrender the racetrack land. The next day, Kondiaw came to visit Yi in the hospital room. Since Yi was being questioned by a doctor and was not in the room, Kondiaw climbed into bed. He was careless and fell asleep in a hospital bed that smelled like a foreign body. When Yi returns, he sees Kondiaw sleeping peacefully in his bed. He couldn't contain his inner excitement. He moves closer to Kondiaw and then gently drops a kiss on his cheek. With this kiss, Kondiaw's protection mechanism immediately kicks in. He immediately pinned Yi back down after opening his eyes. Kondiaw was unprepared for such a sudden and drastic change in Yi. All he could do was try to stop Yi's various kissing behaviors, and he asked him to consult himself before his next action. After checking out of the hospital, Kondiaw followed Yi back to their home. Since he has lost his memory, Kondiaw clings to her family's beloved dog as soon as she gets home, and he pretends to lie to Yi about the good feelings between them. This made Yi snicker secretly. He saw right through Kondiaw's inner thoughts. However, as the conversation between the two deepened, soon it's because he gets curious about why Kondiaw wants to leave him. This led to a fight. In order to avoid the emotion of arguing and affecting their relationship, Yi is quick to say that he doesn't want to keep arguing. He then proceeded to show their love by molesting Kondiaw. He makes Kondiaw revel in his passionate kisses again and again. Yi had thought he could take advantage of this success to take down Kondiaw, but when it comes down to it, Kondiaw's dog always comes out to wreak havoc. This one is no exception. The puppy managed to stop the two from moving. It makes Yi still harbor a grudge against its existence. By pretending to be sick and crying out in pain, Yi manages to get Kondiaw to hand feed him. When it's time to go to bed for the night, Yi isn't quite asleep yet. Kondiaw's heart skips a beat because of Yi, who has become active after losing his memory. He snuck up against Yi's chest, feeling the sound of his heartbeat. At night, he sleeps peacefully on Yi's pillow. The next day, on his order to come and look for his master, Kondiaw asked him to wait in the lobby for a moment. He then carries his beloved pet dog to wake up Yi. However, as soon as Yi opens his eyes and sees the puppy, he unconsciously utters the words that he had tried to kill it in the past. It almost makes Kondiaw realize the fact that he's faking amnesia. After getting up, he had 2 hours to get ready. Yi then asks Kondiaw to bathe him as well as groom him, citing his hands as an inconvenience. During this time, he fully enjoyed being taken care of like an emperor by his attentive wife Kondiaw. After dressing up meticulously, he proceeded to meet his father accompanied by Kondiaw. As soon as they met, his father sensed that he was faking amnesia, so he told him to stop pretending. Father is more concerned about why Kondiaw wants to leave Yi than Yi's feigned memory loss, and he thinks he might have done something wrong. These words make Yi realize that he's nowhere near as important in his father's heart as his future daughter-in-law Kondiaw.
มึงนี่มันโง่จริงๆนะ
Kuya often comes to talk to Kondiaw and take an interest in his life. During their conversation, Kondiaw mentions the recent changes in Yi, and he thinks that Yi is even more adorable now than before. Before their conversation is over, however, Yi returns. When he walks in the door, he sees Kuya pinching Kondiaw's cheeks. It made him feel a little uncomfortable, so he came up to speak in jealousy. His jealousy was evident in his tone. Kuya is undaunted in the face of Yi's bad temper and fires back. He backtracked besides showing his deep emotions with Kondiaw. He said that Yi's friendship with Leon was no less than the two of them. This made Yi almost gasp because of the images that came to his mind. Since Kuya and Kondiaw have been biting on the fact that Yi cheated on her before the accident, Yi listened and vigorously denied this fact. And he asked Kuya to provide evidence, so Kuya pulls out a photo that her best friend accidentally stole to accuse Yi. He even mentioned Leon. He claimed that Leon was also able to prove that he had an unusual relationship with his cheating partner. Leon's arrival instantly turned the scene into a chaotic one. Yi mistakenly thinks that his best buddy is picking on him and Kondiaw, so the two started fighting at the drop of a hat. Due to injuries, Yi was at a disadvantage and eventually lost. However, Leon, as the victor, wasn't able to enjoy his victory for long. He was soon stopped by Kondiaw with an over-the-shoulder slam to stop the two from clashing. It was only after things were cleared up that he came to his senses. It turns out that Kuya and others misunderstood the situation. It turns out that the person in the photo is actually him with his half-sister. Kuya realizes he's unintentionally in trouble. He immediately apologized to his best friend with an apologetic face. Kuya gets into this awkward situation because of a misunderstanding. He reaches an agreement with Kondiaw in the evening. If he has any questions in the future, he could have asked him directly for advice to avoid another similar misunderstanding. And Kondiaw learns that he wasn't unfaithful to him after unraveling the mystery of Yi's cheating. This was what made him finally let go of the worries and concerns in his heart. He could finally indulge in Yi's devoted pampering of him to avoid any more trouble on Kuya's end. When Yi speaks to Leon the next day, he tells him to tell Kuya, ask him to stop interfering in their relationship affairs. Leon, on the other hand, says that he wants to protect his wife. He suggests that Yi, rather than continue to feign amnesia, he might as well talk frankly with Kondiaw as soon as possible about the accident that happened when he was young. Yi's call with Leon had just ended when Kondiaw quickly approached him. In order to integrate Kondiaw into his life as well, Yi decides to take him to work with him. This will allow him to get to know himself better. However, it is clearly not an auspicious day for Yi to take Kondiaw to the office. Originally, Yi was just planning to meet Kondiaw Hane, a familiar customer. He is here to make sure that the car ordered by the customer is delivered to the person without any problem. But surprisingly, Kondiaw Hane's son is a taekwondo student directed by Kondiaw. Kondiaw Hane makes no secret of his love for Kondiaw. This makes Yi feel very jealous. He has a rare loss of manners in front of his clients. He claims to be Kondiaw's fiancé. However, even after hearing the news, Kondiaw Hane remained adamant, saying, as long as they weren't officially married, they had a chance themselves. Yi leaves Kondiaw Hane's house in a huff. This gave Kondiaw a headache on the way back. Fortunately for Yi, it wasn't Kondiaw himself who was angry. Soon he was leaning on Kondiaw's shoulder as if he were pampered. With a hint of soreness in his tone, he reveals that he doesn't want anyone to steal Kondiaw from him. After being irritated by the client, the two had just returned to the office when his father came to visit with a man. They claimed to be visiting Yi, who had been in a car accident, but in reality, they came to demand money. Luckily, the secretary next to him wisely helps Yi to dismiss these people by saying that he has a meeting later. Otherwise, Yi may be on the scene for the in-laws to suffer another loss. Kondiaw naturally understands the money-demanding behavior of his father and others, but he couldn't understand how his father could be so shameless as to keep asking for money from his family. It made him feel very guilty inside. He thinks he's causing trouble for Yi's family. However, Yi turns the tables on Kondiaw and comforts him. He stated that this was nothing at all as long as he stayed by his side. At night, before Kondiaw goes to bed, he tells Yi about the images he's been dreaming about a lot lately. When Kondiaw finished describing the contents, Yi couldn't help but shiver, because the image Kondiaw is talking about is exactly the memory he lost. Meanwhile, Kondiaw Hane made his decision after asking his son's opinion. He wants to try to woo Kondiaw and make him his family. How would he know if he could be the man favored by Kondiaw if he didn't fight for it? At night, Yi can't sleep, so he got up and got out of bed and walked downstairs. He worries that Kondiaw will hate himself and stay away from him after he regains his memory. The thought of that possibility sent his emotions spiraling out of control. The bottle of red wine in his hand was smashed. The sound of breaking glass soon woke up Kondiaw, who was sleeping. Though he wasn't sure what had happened to Yi, but he didn't hesitate to stand by Yi, guarding him, not moving an inch. With Kondiaw by his side, Yi gradually regains his senses and calms down. Kondiaw accidentally stepped on broken glass and got hurt. Yi gently carried him upstairs and medicated his wounds. In the process, the two also engaged in a soulful conversation. Yi opens his mouth to propose to Kondiaw and asks if he will marry him. Kondiaw readily agreed. They decided to start planning the wedding immediately. The next day, as he prepares to leave for work, he would have invited Kondiaw to join him again. However, Kondiaw politely declined. He stated that he had other matters to attend to. Nonetheless, Yi is still in a good mood as he heads to the office alone with a good morning kiss from Kondiaw. As soon as he arrives at the office, Yi immediately has a meeting and asks his secretaries to prepare for the wedding. He wants the secretaries to finish all the wedding preparations within 3 weeks. As the former secretary was breastfeeding, family is her top priority. This important responsibility therefore falls on the shoulders of the current secretary. After Yi leaves, Kondiaw calls her father. He had wanted to ask his father why he had sent himself to England back then, yet the father was reluctant to talk about it. Instead, father told Kondiaw, if he wants to help out the family, it's best to stay in Yi's house. This will be more helpful to the family. Kondiaw knew from his father's answer and from his recent knowledge of the losses suffered by Yi's family, he had become an object of conversation for his father. This made him disappointed and frustrated with his father. At the same time, he feels deeply guilty about Yi. On the other side, Kondiaw's half-brother's eyes in the Yi family are all removed. Faced with this dilemma, he seeks the help of his uncle Sasfon, who shares his position. In addition to confessing to Sasfon the mistakes he had made, he threatened, if he doesn't offer help, he leaves everyone in the lurch. Together, they will face the threat of exposure and death. Before falling asleep at night, Kondiaw poses a question to Yi, questioning whether he's faking amnesia. Faced with Kondiaw's questioning, Yi chooses to be honest and tell him the truth. So in order to stop burdening Yi's family, Kondiaw proposes to cancel the wedding. However, as soon as the words are uttered, Yi immediately pleads with Kondiaw not to leave him. Seeing that his beloved Yi refuses to let go, Kondiaw is also a bit reluctant to let go. But then again, he didn't want to, and he stayed in Yi's house as his father's ATM. So Kondiaw makes a condition to Yi. He can't leave, but only if he agrees to join him in ruining their own wedding. The next day, Yi was summoned there by his father. As they sit down to talk, the father begins to reprimand Yi and hands him some information. His father lets him know that there is an attempt on Kondiaw's life in the in-laws' family. Fearing for Kondiaw's safety, Yi's father gives him a deadline. He asks him to find out who's behind this before the wedding. Otherwise, he will be swept off his feet and take matters into his own hands.
ถ้ามึงรักใครมึงก็ควรทำให้เขารู้
Yi sent officers to protect Kondiaw's personal safety. But apart from Yi, there is Kondiaw Hane who also wants to Kondiaw. When Kondiaw Hane saw Kondiaw going out at night on his bicycle, he stopped beside Kondiaw to ask if he needed a ride. Unfortunately, Kondiaw refused his kind offer. In the end, Kondiaw Hane could only drive away somewhat disappointed, due to a prior agreement to ruin the wedding together. Each of the two parties found their own friends to participate. Kondiaw's side has chosen Kuya as a helper, and Kuya, who wasn't a big fan of Yi in the first place, immediately and gladly raised her hand to join the fray after hearing this. On the other hand, Yi finds Leon and tells him his plan. He also promised to help fight for him. After returning home in the evening, Yi, under Kondiaw's questioning, opens up about his experience of losing his memory. This gave Kondiaw an insight into the connection between his father and the Yi family. That night, the relationship between the two deepened with Kondiaw's overtures. Leon tries to understand his and Kondiaw's plans while spending the night with Kuya. Though Kuya feels sorry for her husband, but for the sake of his friends, he remained steadfast in keeping the secret. He did not disclose any information. The father's behavior sent chills down Kondiaw's spine when he learns that he was only used by his father as a tool to put pressure on the Yi family. Kondiaw has decided not to be manipulated by others. He wants to live his life. He decides to cut ties with his family completely at the wedding. In Kondiaw's closet, he found taekwondo uniforms and medals he had once put away. Curious, Yi asked why they weren't put out on display. Upon learning that Kondiaw loved being an instructor and wanted to further her education in taekwondo, Yi says he will try to help Kondiaw achieve anything he likes. At Kondiaw Hane's request, Kondiaw was rehired as a coach by the school. When he came to pick up his kids from class, he happily walked up to express his goodwill. As soon as he saw Kondiaw's presence, he invites Kondiaw to have dinner with them as father and son. But Kondiaw politely declined, citing the need to have dinner with her engagement partner. Hearing this, Kondiaw Hane can't help but fight for it. He asked Kondiaw directly if he was willing to change his mind. However, he eventually received a rejection from Kondiaw. Even Kondiaw made it clear that he wouldn't accept anyone but Yi. After parting ways with Kondiaw Hane, Kondiaw immediately returned home. Originally, he and Yi had agreed to have dinner tonight. However, Yi inadvertently misses his appointment because he goes to discuss plans with his best friend in the evening. At the bar, Leon reveals to Yi that Kondiaw has approached some of his close friends. They formed a team to sabotage the wedding. However, since Kuya has not provided any information, Yi decides to engage Kondiaw in a battle of wits. He would make him realize where the majesty of being the head of the family lay. In anticipation of the wedding, Kondiaw and her friends negotiate a runaway wedding under the pretext of a bachelorette party. In order to avoid Yi learning about it, Kondiaw politely declines Yi's right. He said he would take care of it. Yet while Kuya was explaining what this program was all about, Kondiaw stayed distracted. The reason for this is that he is worried that if his plan succeeds, he might hurt Yi. Kondiaw comes to the future eunuch's house for a visit. He confessed to his father-in-law his intention to break up the wedding. After hearing this, he expressed respect for Kondiaw's decision. He then made a condition stating that he agreed to make Kondiaw the runaway groom. However, as a future eunuch, he would not stand idly by. He'll only give Kondiaw 30 minutes to escape, and they compromised because he heard about it from his son beforehand. At his son's request, he puts on a show with his future daughter-in-law following Yi's script. After interrogating them under Om's efficient investigation, soon, he reveals the dishonorable acts the family has engaged in. After Sasfon's exploits are revealed, he decides to flee the scene. To make sure he has a chip on his shoulder, he sends his men after Kondiaw. Soon, Yi brings Ong to Kondiaw's father's house. In addition to laying before him the evidence of Tim's crimes and those of his wife and daughter, Yi also stated in a domineering tone he would take stern measures against anyone who tries to harm their home in Kondiaw. Even if it was his future father-in-law, he would show no mercy.
ผมจะไม่ยอมปล่อยให้คนเดียวต้องเจ็บปวดอีกแล้วไม่ว่าเพราะอะไรหรือเพราะ
However, on the occasion of the successful kidnapping of Kondiaw, he is unexpectedly confronted by Kondiaw Hane's prisoner hijacking operation. Eventually, Kondiaw manages to escape, and Sasfon's plan was lost. He made an emergency call to Kondiaw as soon as he received the news. After learning that Kondiaw was safe, they agreed to meet at their home. After thanking Kondiaw Hane for saving his life and politely declining his ride, Kondiaw strolled back home alone. His father, however, did not show much joy at his presence. It didn't even take him long to urge him to leave. After all this, Kondiaw was disappointed and disillusioned with her father. He began to question whether his father had ever truly loved him. However, in his father's silence, he gradually realized the truth, so he decided to draw a line in the sand with his father. He stated that from now on, he will no longer be a part of this family. He would also no longer be a tool for his father to use the Yi family for his own gain. Kondiaw dragged his exhausted body back home. When he sees Yi waiting at home for his return, he immediately walks up to him. He leaned over Yi's shoulder. He expresses to Yi that only where Yi is his home. Before the wedding took place, Yi took Kondiaw to meet his mom and to half-sisters. He told Kondiaw, "From now on, you will not be alone." The scene reminds Kondiaw of her own mother. She keeps comforting Kondiaw, who is in a bad mood and has low self-esteem. She tried to soothe his broken heart with a kiss. However, Kondiaw sees through Yi's little mind. The moment the elevator doors opened, Kondiaw quickly fled the scene. The escape plan is officially launched. Kondiaw has a well-planned costume change by Kuya. He was ready to execute his escape. In order to help Kondiaw make a successful escape, several people skillfully lure the bouncer away from the hotel entrance with lies. They cleared the first obstacle to Kondiaw's escape. Afterward, the two men felt deeply guilty for the lies they told. They have confessed and asked for forgiveness from the Buddha. Kuya is trying to buy Kondiaw some time. He had a friend disguise Kondiaw for an interview with the media. Meanwhile, Kondiaw and the bodyguards are engaged in a game of cat and mouse. However, Leon was fortunate enough to witness it, and he immediately tipped off Yi. He reminds Yi that he has 12 minutes to go. Leon wants Yi to take advantage of this opportunity. Kondiaw deftly avoids waves of bodyguards. Along the way, he received all kinds of help from his friends. On the other side, the two fathers were discussing the breach of contract. When Kondiaw's father learns that he no longer has any leverage against his in-laws, he went so far as to get on his knees and pray that if the wedding doesn't take place, please don't blame Kondiaw for the fact that he's still a child. In this moment, Kondiaw's father finally realized all the consequences of today are the result of his own mistakes. Yi's father also warned him, from now on, their two families will have nothing more to do with each other. He told him to stop forcing Kondiaw to be a tool for his wealth. It was then that Ong received a message. Kondiaw has been found. At a crucial moment, Yi pops up and declares the game over. However, the defiant Kondiaw wisely escapes again. Eventually, Kondiaw is attracted to his dog and is successfully intercepted by Yi. Yi's heartfelt confession made Kondiaw finally accept Yi's proposal. In the presence of her friends, accompanied by his friends, Kondiaw stepped into the venue. He and Yi shared an important moment in their lives. Meanwhile, Kondiaw has resolved his years-long feud with his father. After the ceremony, the two couldn't wait to get into their new house.